C'est bon, là je pense que ça va marcher. Tu vois, je l'ai mis en MacBook Pro, Ah putain, c'est ce micro-là qui passe.
Très blague magique.
It's only fitting to listen to the whole soundtrack of the game.
Not yet fixed, but soon. I'm sorry for that.
There's a culprit we have to find.
People are frustrated also online. Sorry for that. It seems it's okay. Can you hear us? Somebody can say it's okay on your side? Online? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So let's go again. Sorry, guys. Let's encourage them, please.
I'm going to present myself once more for the people out there. And so I'm sure you remember my name. I'm Clément, I'm a game and narrative designer, and welcome to DUCKTECTIVE. So today, the purpose is not to talk about a game, it's to talk about the terrible secret the birds hide from us. In DUCKTECTIVE, you play as 3 ducks stacked under a trench coat. They do this so they disguise as humans, and even though they have duck feet and a beak, it works. In DUCKTECTIVE, you have to walk into a level and collect clues in order to solve a mystery. You will also have to provide your own hypothesis and try to unfold the mystery that you are trying to solve. All of that while remaining incognito from the humans, and that is the hardest part when you're 3 ducks under a trench coat. Now, before we dive into the duck experience, I'm going to let Pierre, our project manager, talk a little bit about the context around the project.
Thank you, Clément. We selected a few competitors on the market according on 2 main axes on which we think we could stand out. Deep versus light investigation mechanic, and drama versus comedy. Which one of those aspects is the most pushed in the games we selected as our competitors? The market appears to be pretty small, but we have a segment in which we can stand out. We identified our main targets, which are players from 10 to 16 and plus, and mid-core gamers, and mostly puzzle game or investigation game players. And some of those competitors are event sources of inspiration. We wanted to have an investigation system that reminds of Detective Grimoire and Return of the Obra Dinn, a graphical ambient style close to Sam & Max, and a trip system that reminds us Untitled Goose Game, or this level from Asterix on PS1, for those who know this game. But we had also to specify our targets a bit more to know exactly where we wanted to go. So we did a bit of user research, and we did some playtests on investigation system. We did 2 prototypes, and we found that players who had a higher gaming knowledge performed better. And on the 2 systems, the first one was like too complex, but matched our intentions better, and the second one was more understandable, but a bit far from what we wanted. So we decided to build a new one that will fit the target and keep on intentions. All of those elements are not there to say we made user research, but more to say, okay, we think that we have identified a bit our target, and we have made choices about it. We also wanted to have an unique and visual and audio direction. We wanted to have goofy and cartoony shapes for both characters and environment. We want kind-looking humans. You don't want them to be hurt. We want expressive birds with anthropomorphization of the face to allow them to express human feelings and help players to identify to them. And on the audio side, for characters, we want all the characters to have their own vocal identity with gibberish dialogues, a duck-pile sound identity as well with webbed feed sound and trench code sound too. We also wanted to have an environment in which we use a lot of lightings for both gameplay purpose and drama. Broken shapes in environment like in Sam & Max. And on the audio part for the environment, jazz music that evolves with the investigation and the clues found. Feedback sound when the player is close to a clue, pick up an object, or when the investigation is true or false. And different street atmospheres and day and night. And now Leah, our game designer, will explain us how it is to play detective and what is our universe. And Leah.
Hi. Have you ever wondered what is it like to be a bird in a human's world? Probably not, because I think you have not so much free time, in fact. But today we will answer this question you never thought you will ask yourself someday. So, as a pile of duck, with your disguise, you can move around the human world without being noticed. You can interact with the environment in a given scene to find clues and collect them. Once you collect clues, they go to kind of an inventory, and it will be needed later for your investigation, so it's very important. But as a pile of duck, your biggest challenge won't be to find a clue, but to actually get to them, because you are kind of clumsy. So that means that you can trip. So tripping means you can lose balance because of collision, because of a slippery surface, or because of your duck's worst nightmare, walking upstairs. So when that happens, when you start losing your balance, it's very important to get right back on your feet, because if you fall, that will be dramatic for you. So we will see in details what does it mean to trip and to fall, both for the ducks and for the humans.
I mean, it's really not easy to look like a human while you're 3 ducks under a trench coat. So if you tend to fall, well, first, if you lose balance in front of a human, your trench coat might go a little bit like that, and they might start to notice that this person maybe isn't a person, they're 3 ducks under trench coats, I think. And if you do fall in front of a human, so you have an example here, a human looks into a direction, and the cone of vision of humans are represented in the game with lightning, so it's easy, so it's easy for the player to see them. Well, if you lose balance in front of a human and actually fall, they see that you are 3 ducks under a trench coat, and they go tell their friends, families, and colleagues, and police officers. Because if you fall, humans know that birds are conscious, and you break the great secret. Now, what is this great secret? In this world, humans live normally like in our world, and birds fly away and chirp just like they do everywhere. But in this world, birds have a hidden society. They're sentient, they can communicate between them, but they hide themselves from humans. Why? Because if humans know that birds are sentient and can kill people, well, birds are no match to humans because they don't have hands. And so they have this whole society hidden from humans. But for the first time, something threatens the secret.
For the first time in history, a bird killed a human. So this threatens the secret, because as we say, if humans learn about the hidden society of birds, they will probably try to exterminate them. But for now, the human police only believe that the victim has been killed with a pillow, so they're pretty safe for now. Chief Pelicano, which is the chief officer of the bird police, gathered a unique team to solve this case. So let's meet them. So first there is Becky, which is our main protagonist, and thank you. Yeah, thank you, Becky. So she's an investigation journalist, but Pelicano heard of her work and wanted her to be on that case because she is kind of talented to find clues. Then there is Barry, which is our middle duck. Nice, Barry. Is a detective, one of the best of the bird police, but because of that, sometimes it tends to be a little bit too confident, and his personality and his goals may clash with Becky's one. And finally, there is Buck. Buck is a rookie. He's here because no one else was available to be the feat of some kind of a fake human detective, and also because he is the chief adoptive son. So, yeah, no, you know what the case is about. You know who will solve it, but you may ask how they will solve it.
Let's go onto what we call the hypothesis system. One of our key intentions in the game is not to guide the player. We want the player to create their own hypothesis and come up with their own conclusions, understand what's happening, and then use a system to tell the game what they understand of the crime scene, for example. So you will gather clues, just like we said before. You might have suspects, you might have evidence, you might have places, testimonies, and you can use those clues to create hypotheses. So by connecting two clues together, you create an hypothesis. Annie the canary has been attacked by an unknown suspect. But an hypothesis unto itself is useless. You have to prove what you state, and that is why you have to provide evidence or proof of what you come up with. The game will kind of verify what you say. If what you say has completely no sense, like Annie the canary has eaten the suction cup, then the other ducks will look at you and say, no, that makes no sense. Why are you a detective? You should get fired. Or you might have a valid hypothesis in the sense that it makes sense, but not have the proof, the evidence to prove it. And so the other ducks will say, well, your proof is kind of weird, we can't say that to the chief. And if your hypothesis makes sense and that you have the right proof to prove it, then you can use it to validate the level. In each level, you have a question to answer, like who killed that person, where that person fled, and if your hypothesis makes sense, you can validate the level with it, which doesn't mean that it's the right hypothesis. This is for a level. Now let's look at how it works in the whole game. So our game is kind of narrative-oriented too, like we want a really good story. And each level is one piece of the big puzzle of the investigation that you're conducting in the whole game, which is a human has been killed by a bird. Between each level, you will meet with Pelicano to debrief and get new instructions, and that is how we can see the relationship between the birds evolve. So our game is mainly plot and character-driven, our main character being Becky, who will have a transformation throughout the game, just like in any story. And she starts her transformation by working with the police. She is a journalist, and so it's a world that she doesn't know. The whole game talks a lot about truth and justice and the relationship between those, while being a comedy, so it's really accessible. The story follows a fall and rise archetype of story, where the characters spend the first part of the story to try stuff, and then she fails miserably and completely gives up on her job and on the investigation. And another character comes and drags her back into the investigation because she has to finish it. At the end, you have a final confrontation against the true suspects, and that is how the three ducks complete their personal transformation and conclude the investigation.
So what will be in our vertical slice? So we want to do 2 to 3 levels that will take place rather at the beginning of the story. We will start with the crime scene to expose what the story is. Then the ducks will have to go to the victim's apartment to interrogate his pet canary. But the things won't go well. And finally, they will have to meet Kookaburra, which is Becky's ex-colleague, to find information about a potential suspect. So that's what we expected to do for our vertical slice. And it would just give enough of the story and of the mechanic to let the player want more of the game.
Let's wrap up. The core of our experience boils down to the chemistry between the quirky controls and the comedy, and the fulfilling investigation system, investigation system that's complex, but when the player masters it and finds stuff on their own, it's really fulfilling. We want to let the player make their own conclusions, but most importantly, we want to let the players be wrong. It is one important part. And so they can be wrong, they can go back to their conclusions to try to understand better the things that they got wrong. And I think that's what's important in this experience. The 2 parts are really important. See, I told you those cute ducks had terrible secrets, and oh boy, these mysteries seem hard to solve even for an experienced detective like me. What about you? Do you think you could crack the case? Thank you for listening.
So who wants to quack the first question? Thank you. Could you please again present yourself? Thanks.
Well, hi, I'm Jaime from Utah, Madrid. And the first thing that I wanted to say is, what the duck? Man, that was amazing, for real. It was a really good setting, first of all.
Thank you.
First of all, no, really, the setting that you have created is really interesting. The presentation has been very clever, and you have pointed out, I think, almost the most important mechanics of your game. But at the same time, I think that the mechanic of the movement, I think that maybe you should have explained that just a bit more, because maybe at the end of the game, it will feel a bit tedious for the player to be always trying to get along, always trying to fall off. So I don't know if maybe during the gameplay, all that clumsiness will decrease between them. I don't know, that's a question that I threw you. But again, thanks for your work.
Hello. As we say, nice work. And in the same way, as long as there are 3 ducks and they have their own personality, what about the orthogonal design of the ducks? There is anything the user can control in case of that, not only the balance, but as long as any of them have a built personality, maybe, I don't know, one of them can be allergic, another one can be afraid of anything, and more things that could interact with the balance controls, because it will give you another way to not to be bored about those mechanics so soon, okay?
Okay.
I can answer to the leader's question. We didn't think about that, and I think that's a great idea. And the only thing that we thought was about if you are wrong too much on the big moments in the story, you might have a slightly different path, and maybe the docs get along less together, and so that might impact the balance. But we didn't think about how the individual docs would influence the thing. So that's a great idea.
I think, Cécile, you have a question. Cécile Flachon.
Hi, so I'm Cécile. I used to be a video games journalist, and I did some investigation at a magazine named Canards, so I felt like it was really for me. And now I work for a publisher, like Scout. And so my question was, it was a little bit answered, but still. So there are two main areas in which we can fail. So you mentioned we could fall in front of a human, and so what happens then? And yeah, the other one was answered. So just on a side note, it was really, really fun. And thank you for trying to put up all the little hats and stuff. It was fun.
So just I'm sure I heard you right. So you want to know what happens if you fall in both cases? Is that right?
Yeah, actually, failed cases were my interest, and mostly when you fall in front of a human, you said it was terrible, but what happens?
So if you, first of all, on the first core gameplay, if you fall in front of a human and that humans are completely aware that you're a duck, you simply restart the level. You keep your clues, but you have to find new strategies to get to the clues that you were there, because if you fall, it means that you took a wrong path, or maybe you failed, and so you might try new strategies. And on the hypothesis parts, first of all, if you get stuck on the hypothesis you want to create, the game tells you, okay, this doesn't make sense, the hypothesis is wrong. This makes sense, but you don't have proof. So that's the first guiding. And in that part, you can't really fail per se, because as long as you have an hypothesis that makes sense with proof, you complete the level.
Thank you.
Yes, Louis from Asobo Studio. Thanks for this presentation. It was very cool. I just want to play it now to test it. I don't know if you already something playable, but anyway, we will ask you some questions on the plateau project after. But also, congrats. It's not easy to say a pile of ducks during a presentation. No, seriously, very funny. We can see that you love your project, so continue like this. And don't forget to have fun during your pre-production. Thank you very much.
What's the engine?
It's the Duck engine. No, it's Unreal Engine.
Hello, Alex, lead artist at Ubi. So I had a few questions again about artistic direction. From what I understood of your project, which was very cool and funny, by the way, it feels like a bit like a noir movie. And from what I saw of your concepts and in mood and stuff like that, some of it are in black and white, some of it are in color, and I understood that you wanted like a cartoonish style. Like, what is the plan exactly to convey the mood of like a noir movie investigation, or is it the plan or not at all? And do you have stuff planned for materials to feel less gamey, let's say, to convey another mood or something like this?
Okay. Hello. Yes. So
about what you said about film noir, it's an inspiration. We stopped saying that because it leads people to think that the game is in black and white, and it's not. So there is planned to be a very different color palette depending on the place. So it helps to bring a strong mood and also to remember the places. But yes, we want to play really strongly with the light, especially to help player to know when he's seen and where he's not, which is very important for the gameplay. About the materials, we plan to go PBR, so with roughness and etc. Unlike Goose Game and this kind of stuff. So what we would like to do is to bring very powerful mood, dramatic one, because our intention for all the game is to play with the context humor, like to have a very serious context and scenery, but like the dialogues and everything is kind of absurd and ridiculous. So it's what we would like to achieve. Do you want to add something?
So yeah, what you say about the film noir, it was an influence. We wanted to make like a really dramatic and kind of oppressed world, but at the same time, we didn't want to use black and white. We wanted something more colorful that could pop a bit the comedic aspect of the game, and also, like she says, to differentiate each area of the game that you explore. For example, like, you know, a room is green and another one is red and such. And yeah, also with the noir aesthetic also came the cartoonish style for the characters, like old movies or cartoons, for example, Roger Rabbit, or even the Looney Tunes and such. So yeah, to make it a more cohesive and funny and such.
Okay, thanks.
Alizé, I think you have a question.
Yeah, Eliza, I'm at the User Research Lab in Paris, Ubisoft. I was wondering something about the fall mechanic. Based on what you said, I would be afraid that it could limit the investigation aspects, like having to always be very careful about not falling. How do you project to be sure it's not?
So first of all, I would just talk about gameplay and let Noé, our UX designer, because that's two parts of the same question. In the gameplay part, we don't want the player to actively manage their balance every time. It's just when they're in a situation where they can fall, when they hit hard an object, when they go up a stairs, when they go on a slippery surface, that they have to manage their balance. They do it for a quick period of time. How do we manage this to be fun and not annoying, because you can't go where you want? The levels, the idea is that they're more than just a place to explore. It's a puzzle that you have to solve in order to get your 3 ducks and their trench coats to the clue. And that is why it is important, how the challenge is fun, because the idea is that you have to find new ways to go to this place. So, for example, there's something in a bin, but you can't catch them because you have wings. So you have to kick the bin, and while you kick the bin, you have to manage your balance. So it's a challenge, and we had levels and ideas like that. I hope I answered, and maybe just a word about UX design on this part.
Yes, thank you. Just about that, obviously, I will take extra caution on this topic for the playtests. There's also a question about accessibility here, because if it becomes too annoying for some players, what we're thinking of is a system similar to Celeste, a kind of custom difficulty where you can just remove or attenuate this answer question that also a bit, when you can remove or attenuate some difficulty aspects. Like you could have a system where you don't you fall but you don't restart, or you stay at the same place. That's what we're working on actually right now. And on the other side, we're really focusing when creating the level design, when testing the level design, on keeping the clues accessible. What I mean is, you can catch them easily. The challenge is navigate in the level for the puzzles. It's not gathering the clues. That's it.
Hello, Raphaël in sound design from Ubisoft. First of all, about the music, I really like it. I think it's efficient and it's what's needed for this project, so good job on that. What I'm thinking about is, in your presentation, you say you want 3 personalities for the ducks. I didn't think I would say that, but I don't feel the duck's personality well in the sound you've shown us. So it's more like a remark. I think don't hesitate to crank it up to make each ducks really stand out from one another, and don't hesitate to make to go silly on this. It's I think the factors that will change from a noir movie to a noir and goofy game. So good job on that.
Thank you for your feedback. And the sound house crop in the extract. So.
Hello, David, producer at La Poule Noire. Thank you for that presentation. At La Poule Noire, we are making funny games too, so I'm really pleased to see that project. My question is simple. Do you have someone dedicated to the dialogues on the writing? Because funny games is really not a fun task.
It's me. I work on the narrative design and dialogues. That's something I really like working on dialogues, and something I already did in my studies, and so I try to make good dialogues. It's not easy, and I don't think I can say they're very good, but I think they will be efficient.
There's a question behind. The time to go there.
Yeah, hello guys, great presentation. One more question about the dialogues. I want to know, while you be investigating, is it possible to get like discovered as the same as you're falling, like you're talking with the human, and the human, by what you're saying back, is going to say, ah man, you must be a duck, you're suspicious. And also, talking about the 3 ducks, I'm thinking would be a good idea if it's possible to swipe ducks with different specialties for each ducks as you bring for the investigation. Like, for example, one is the aggressive talking, the other one is stupid, but is like compassionate, and different things like this. And to try to play with the different personalities and try to explore as much ways as you can to get the clues together.
Actually, choosing which duck talk to people, I think it's a great idea, and we did investigate that. It's majorly because of scope, but I think it's a great idea. And yeah, basically the idea is that when you talk to humans, they sometimes get suspicious. So for example, in the first level, Becky freaks out because she doesn't know what to say to the detective. So Barry just talks over her, and in the stress, she quacks. And those interactions are really part of the fun of the game, of the silliness of someone saying, maybe that person I'm talking to is 3 ducks under trench coats.
Yes, hi. I want to bounce on the dialogues. Yes, you did a lot of progress, and now I was like kind of having a call about, in France, there is a beautiful film called Les Tontons Flingueurs. Okay, the dialogues are incredible. I am dreaming about hearing the quack quack flangueur. Please do it. Thank you.
That's another question, but I have to go there.
Hello, so Milan, I'm doing marketing for indie games. It's not a question, it's more a remark, but if you don't plan to do it, I think getting some dialogue between the three ducks when you are walking to say, hey, you are like walking on my head or stuff like that could be really nice to add some like non-essential narrative, but like super fun and to have some more implication with the players. So.
We don't have dialogues when you walk between the docks, but we have dialogues between the docks when you gather the clues. It's just a matter of scope and systems because our dialogue system is linear and blocks the controls. So we just thought about them talking to each other. But for example, in the first level, you have something on top of a window that you have to go, and you have Becky saying to Buck, "Oh, get a little bit up. You're useless. Do something." And he's like, "No, I can't." Those kind of dialogues are really at the core of when you find the clues. I think it's a better alternative to the character that talks to himself. Oh, I think this clue means that.
Any other question or remarks? I have the impression that we are done here. So thanks again to the team, and well, round of applause. And let's welcome the next team. So the project, The Link. Let's encourage them also with applause.
Well, we'll start right away with a quick teaser. Well, welcome to the presentation of Project The Link. So for your information, the name of the project is temporary. So first of all, note that all the team is extremely honored to have the occasion to present this project in front of so many experienced professionals, and we hope that you will enjoy the show. So I'll now begin to introduce the game specifications. So the year is 2243. Protect Corporation monopolized the exploitation of a new resource, the inforium, discovered on the exoplanet Vili for the manufacturing of its human synthetics. As the wildlife become hostile to the mining, a creature breaks into the facility. So as you surely guessed inside the teaser, it's an FPS horror game, or first-person horror game, on PC as a solo player, and the whole game will range about 8 to 10 hours of gameplay. So now about the game experience. The whole setup will take place in a science fiction universe, in a scientific complex, and with a predatory creature tracking the player, while he is trying to complete a mission given by the corporation Protect. So for the conception of this game, we are putting the emphasis on several things, which are the feeling of vulnerability and loneliness, the choices and sacrifice-oriented mechanics, and then a terrific and dreadful environment. And all of these are conveyed by our design pillars, which are building of a distinctive identity in the horror genre, like verticality, sacrifices, etc. A deepness in scenery making and writing supported by visual design, sound design and gameplay, and a soundness in the whole world coherence. So I will not let ladies talk about the world of the Link.
So, as introduced earlier, the story takes place on a new planet, Vili, the Telluric planet number 183. So the technological innovation corporation projects are settled there to exploit Inforium, a superconducting material that does not require cooling and that does not need to be subjected to specific pressure. Thanks to it, they were able to impose themselves in the world of new technologies by creating 3 generations of synthetics. On this screen, you can see examples of rooms that could be found in the complex. There are archive rooms and corridors that have already experienced the threat of the creature. These tests reflect one of the intentions of the game, which is hard science, and the believability of the places. And we are positioned in a photorealistic visual art direction. It is thus in this complex of extraction and research that you will evolve. Because you are one of them. You may have seen it in the timeline just before. The first generation of synthetics was of military robotic type. The second one was android, very close to human in terms of thinking and behavior. However, their artificial body still shows difference. But this was not the only reason that motivated a new generation of synthetics. It was because of scarcity of resources and therefore the cost of production. So, to create synthetic beings at lower cost, Project turned to transhumanism. The third generation is the result of experiments on human beings, replacing their blood with Inforium and installing a whole bunch of components in their body and in their mind. Named SH1 for synthetic human number 1, you are the first success of this third generation of synthetic.
So, through the atmosphere of the Link, we wish to highlight our primary inspiration source, which is the psychological horror genre in cinema. With this in mind, the scenery elements and the majority of the sounds aim for a natural and realistic aesthetic. Then we will use the surrounding lighting and more evocative sounds to dramatize the key narrative elements and arouse the player's fear. In order to achieve the goal of sounding natural, most of the game sound emitters are firstly granularly broken down into its core sound components. Then different variations of those sounds are randomly reassembled at runtime to make a large number of unpredictable micro-variations and create a dynamic soundscape. This process happens at the scale of a single game element, like the player character, or at the global atmosphere of the game itself. And the dramatizations, for its part, is linked to the concept of sacrifices. While players make sacrifices and see their abilities and chances of survival increasingly reducing, the overall tension of the game increases, conveyed through subtle audio atmosphere changes. And this rising pressure is a representation of our character psyche and the key element in conveying our main intentions.
So this is the creature which managed to get into the facility. We will know later on the game that the creature is attracted by the Inforium. And this creature usually lives in the underground of the planet, so it is blind and its skin is sensitive to light. However, it is armed with 8 legs that help it to move on any surfaces, floor, walls, and ceiling. And also, it makes a frightening scream and uses vibration to detect its prey. So this powerful echolocation system is a humanly hearable wave sound. We will see that the player can use an AI system to detect the waves, but if the player is too close to the creature, a listening system may be broken for a while, with short moments of sound hallucination disorienting the player. Here we wanted to show you some examples of our recent advance, especially on the creature rigs. And now we will see what tools the player will use to survive in the facilities.
Thanks. So in face of such a predator, Anya has several options, which are throwable items like flashbangs or flares, the powerful hololink, which I will come back on it later, the toxicity filters, and most of these options are restrained by the toxicity in our body and other parameters. Because yes, we design all of these mechanics around the main pillar of sacrifice. So the first tool Anya can use is a set of security items available to help protect employees. So scattered around the overall complex, flashbangs, flares, and other similar devices are commonly used by the guards of Protect. Originally intended to be used against other humans or synthetics, these devices are still of great use to Anya because obviously the creature is highly photosensitive. So it repels the creature temporarily, which goes lurking elsewhere, still waiting for you in the dark, like you can see on this graph on the right. Because Anya doesn't have much on air while undergoing a mission, she can stock these flares and flashbangs, and she does not have any inventory as such, and thus the flares and flashbangs can only be used on the spot. Talking about Anya, as a synthetic of first generation, she is using filters developed by Protect in order to have the inforium, the powerful substance extracted from the planet, running in her veins. Because inforium is usually not fit to be in replacing blood, this tree filter installed in the arm passively builds up, starts to actually replacing and cleaning the toxicity inside our body. And so if not three filters are maintained at the same time, toxicity starts to accumulate, obviously, because they are not doing their work anymore. But how is she gonna lose these filters? Well, that's interesting. The answer is simple: escaping the creature. When facing a near-death situation, or when the player expects the creature to be lurking in a certain spot, the Anya can choose to interfere with her system to detach a filter full of substance which attract the creature because it's extracted from the planet, and throw it to attract the creature from wherever it is on the level. But this comes at a cost, obviously, a sacrifice. Each filter missing will impact the toxicity inside the body of Anya, like you can see on this graph on the right. Free filter, you slowly dissipate the toxicity, so regenerate. It stagnates at 2, a slow increase in toxicity at 1, 0, a high increase, dynamic, and at 100%, you die. So if you are lucky or sharp-minded, you might find other filters to replace your missing ones, but it's not sure. And it could help you recover from a tricky situation. And so, for now, the last tool she can use, but not the least, the HoloLink is a powerful augmented reality system integrated with an assistant AI developed by Protect. It is really important to understand that it can be toggled off and on and off at the player's will by simply pressing a button. So its main purpose lies in 2 strategical functions. First, the HoloLink constantly displays the UI, like, for example, slowing curve, like you can see on the example. You can see where you are going to slow exactly the flashbangs or the items if you don't trigger your HoloLink, so your assistant. It can also display toxicity amounts and item locations. Furthermore, in case of immediate danger, the HoloLink is capable of calculating them in real time and displaying advice to the user. For example, the death probability of each room and zones in the game, as well as safe spots when the creator is using echolocalization to locate the player, like you can see on the graph on the right. And sadly, because Anya is acting in an emergency situation, the HoloLink battery has long been depleted, and an emergency behavior has triggered, which put a heavy load on the filters when using the HoloLink to display UI, danger zone, etc. So using the HoloLink itself is a sacrifice versus risk-reward mechanic. The more you use it, the more toxicity you are slowly going to experience, but the less you use it, the more your environment will feel hostile and without any help to you, like you can see on the right of the array. Actually, when using the HoloLink, you step every case of the array actually on the upper side. And basically at 1, you have a really high increase, and at 0, you can't even trigger your hololink anymore because you are too close to death. So it's to be noted that our intention is to make the game completable without using the hololink once, but at an extreme difficulty by doing so. So just a quick example, here is a little mock-up of what the hololink will be displaying in case of danger. It will not look like that in the final games, just to give you a basic idea. So you can see the 3 different levels of danger in augmented reality, and we do not represent here all the other UI could display, like I said before, items, toxicity, etc.
So, on the screen, this is how we are going to tell the story inside the game. We intend to immerse the player in a horrific story of about 8 hours, divided into 4 acts, following the twists of the narrative and a prologue grabber to immediately hook the players. We intend to build tension all along the game, represented by this curve, but without it being linear to avoid breaking the narrative flow. And now beyond the game.
So let's talk about user research and the marketing side. So the implementation of user research in the development process allows to have tools during conception and production and to evaluate usability and validate our intentions of experience. So we first have theoretical and practical approaches of what are fear boosters and reducers in horror games from our main references. So we first built a benchmark of BPM data on Soma, Outlast, and Resident Evil 7, and a user benchmark of what is mainly liked or disliked in Alien Isolation, of course. So for the theoretical aspect, we use a scale of levels of fear in video games adapted to our project. In addition to usability testing, the completion of the scale during playtests will help us to know how to reduce or enhance the fear factor. Finally, we also aim to implement accessibility features to allow a larger public to play our game. You can see here a few examples of what is going to be taken into account in our project. We put a particular attention to control remapping, subtitles, and color blindness helps. The implementation of captions seems as essential as it is for subtitles in every game, and in the same way, conveying information not only with one color or with one sound is as important as high contrast and a correct font size.
For the marketing positioning, we did a benchmark on several games to analyze our segment of markets and the game horror player usually consume. That might be near the experience we propose. Our game is located on the higher level of fear and also with a narrative and mechanic equilibrium, which is where we actually want to place ourselves according to our competitors. For our marketing plan, we try to define our target player who would buy and enjoy our game. Thrill-seeking player who will particularly be a target. For the market in horror is still a very niche and smaller segment of player, we can expand our reach with streamable content and accessibility features. We also have a price range for AA, ranging from €25 to 30. For our vertical slice, we wanted to get the attention of the player by providing a condensed experience of the game and leave them wanting more. We implemented several features of low scope to convey a system of interaction on the game. For the vertical slice breakdown, we used the narrative structure of the whole game in the vertical slice condensed to offer a similar emotional experience as in the real game. Implement several features of low scope to convey the system interaction in the final game, and showing a polished slice of our game to be published. We hope everything was clear and that we piqued your interest in our game. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to ask now. We'll also be present in the workspace in the afternoon, and we can't wait to interact with you.
So, first question or remark? Yeah.
Hello. So first of all, congratulations on the presentation. It was really cool. I was really into it. So so like the mood and the sound were really nice. I want to congratulate the artist who worked on the creature. It's a really cool design. It looks like it's very functional, and you already started to rig it. So, like, really, congrats! It's cool to see that much progress. What I wanted to talk about, it was lighting. From the screen I've seen of the game, it looks very contrasted. Just be careful of the readability of your game. I know you want to have a dark mood or something, like to create a mood, but like all black don't exist. It doesn't exist. So be careful with it. Try to be very careful with contrast. So that's just what I wanted to say, but like, congratulations again.
Yeah, if I can say something on that. We really wanted to play with the dark and with the light, of course, in the game, but for the purpose of the presentation, we tried to have readable images with the place and the video projector. It was not easy to get all what's happening in the images, but I would be glad to show you that you can see a bit more and a bit less contrast in the actual game and not on the screenshots. Thank you very much for your feedback.
Hi, I'm Jaime from Utah and Madrid. I have 3 different questions. Well, first of all, thanks for the presentation. It was quite immersive, and I think it was a really good idea to think as the interface as part of the immersion also. But at the same time, I had the question, if you are not going to always have the HoloLink, sorry, is the HoloLink, or, yes? If you're not always going to have that on, how are you going to show the player some information about, for example, like toxicity? How is the player going to understand exactly what level of toxicity is at that moment? For example, that's part of my question. If it's going to be through the own mechanics or through the screen, just a question. Then I have another question about the chances that we have, the probability of danger, I think it was called. If it's really based on chance or it's more based on a skill, because that type of game is more reliable. Normally, well, it relies on a skill, not so much on chance. So I just wanted to understand what does it mean to have a 20% of danger probability. And another narrative gameplay question: why does the creature go against the player? If it's just going for the material, why does it go against the player? Has something happened? Well, if you want to tell us about. Thanks again for the presentation.
Well, thank you for the feedback. I will take the question in order. So for the toxicity, yes, it's still actually not in the game right now. So we did not make decisions right now about whether we are going to display the toxicity amount when not using the HoloLink. It could be an idea to not go like that, because actually, one thing I did not specify is that you get debuffs, like for example saturation, camera debuffs, etc. When you are in a high level of toxicity. So even if you don't have the toxicity bar, you maybe be able to experience it. So now where actually you are situating to.
Yeah, but maybe like a feedback of like the one in the game in that space, for example, that you can see in the back or maybe in the hands of your character, for example.
Yeah, one of the ideas was, because we are going to see the filters in the arm and we are going to remove them, is to use also the arms to have some visual feedback of the toxicity of the player. But yeah, it's still in a work in progress, of course.
Okay.
So the second question was about
the danger percentage.
Yeah. So the danger probability, it's more often, if I could say so, a narrative like gimmick we put in the game to actually instill fear inside the players. Like for example, you come at a few corridors and actually you can see 3 corridors with a high level of danger. You're actually asking yourself questions about what could kill me if I go in like that. And one thing I did not specify because it's for the whole game. Also, it's just a little gimmick. You can actually, like in Detroit, focus on clues inside the environments to precise the level of dangerousness. And for example, you could have a dangerousness level of 19%, and if you scan clues around it, it could drop because you have more and more clues that it's safe or not safe. And it's like that we are going to put a use in this level of danger inside the whole link.
Yeah, but what happens if, for example, you are in a place with a 50% of danger level? What happened that the creature can or cannot find you?
No, you don't have a 50% chance of dying. It's more like to guide the player, and after that we have the creature which lurk around, etc., and which eventually, of course, could kill the player, and we could level design some really more dangerous places than the others, according to what the link is gonna display. That's the thing.
Okay. And then the narrative perspective of why the creature is going against the player.
Sorry.
Why the creature is going against the player? Because if the creature wants...
it's a third question. It's because like the substance, the inforium, is running inside her veins. So like all other synthetics. So she's like just a living pot of substance walking, and basically, it's attracting the creature to her. That's it. Sorry, my list, which is the narrative designer. Well,
no, I just wanted to add something. It's the first reason, but the other reason is that Projets, the company, is massively exploiting inforium in the planet. That's why she goes crazy. And the last reason is that she's in the complex, and the complex has kind of the same atmosphere that on the Earth, which is not the same on Earth natural environment. So it's another reason that explains why she's that aggressive.
Yeah, guys, I got another question. I've seen on the character that she were wearing the climbing equipment, and you were talking about verticality. So do you think about adding some gameplay about her climbing down or climbing up? And what about it?
Well, actually, the use of verticality is really something we were thinking about. We are not actually inside level design production, so right now we don't have many details about how we are going to exploit it exactly. But yeah, the idea is, unlike a lot of horror games, to exploit sometimes verticality, because it's not something we are used as humans to more exploring than the horizontal plane. So we found it really interesting in this case. So yeah, it's mostly also because of that. But yeah, I can give you a more description about that. I don't know if I answered quite well the question or not.
Yeah, it's okay, because I know it's under progress, so everything will get better as it's going. One other question, is it going to be possible to kill the beast at the end? Yeah, we got to think about it.
We think about it, but the idea is not gameplay-wise. Like maybe in a narrative embellishment at the end, but not as gameplay. We really wanted to be at least different than games which puts weapons and things like that, like direct weapons, like grenades and flash are not really direct weapons. They are
defense,
temporary difference, and so the idea is to not have really something to kill the beast or to be feeling at some point superior to it. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback.
Adrien, I think you have a question.
Yes, thank you. So Adrien from Arte, thank you for this great presentation. It looks really, really cool. I actually have a remark more than a question about the fear in your game, because I struggled a little bit to understand what differentiates your game from other kind of triple A, and so I saw that on your on one of your slides you said that fear was really important, and in the other end the gameplay around probability and like the level of danger that you can measure sounds a little bit counterproductive, because on those games, fear is induced by not knowing what's going on. And if you are aware of the danger around, like you are not afraid anymore, you have to rely on what you think you can see or you can hear. Like the danger is not the beast, it's the probability that maybe the beast is somewhere. And so yeah, that's just it basically. But yeah, I'm just afraid that this gameplay mechanic actually ruined the fear you want to induce. And maybe just thinking about like how horror movie works, most of the time you have to have that kind of second sources of fear. So maybe you should think about something else that is like behind the beast or something. Maybe the beast is not the only danger around, because if you focused only on that, narratively, it's going to be a little bit difficult to carry on along the way. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, thank you for the feedback, but you are going to be happy to learn that indeed it's something we were thinking about, the thing that the HoloLink may break the fear. And so we actually thought about using the HoloLink as a false friend. And basically what it does is that in the free, for example, if you have 3 corridors in front of you, you could have, like I said earlier, a lot of probabilities of death, and you don't know which one you are going to choose. And so having this information is actually more detrimental to you than not having it. So that's the first point. And the second point is that at some point on the game, we are going to break the HoloLink. So basically, you are going to have an accident to break it, and it will still working, but it will be constantly active. So maybe constantly generating toxicity. So you will have a cooldown on your head for some part of the game, and because it's broken, also it will give you false information. Like for example, you are in a corridor, you say. You see safe, 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 and then the creature appears. And that's something we are gonna plan to do for the whole game. That's it. For as a little twist.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Vincent Camdouzou. I'm a designer at Ubisoft. First, thank you. It's very clean. I wanted to ask you something, maybe it's a bit early, for the vertical slice and about the creature. Do you already know, tech-wise, how you will manage it? Will it be a real IA or something scripted?
So about the AI, it's a lot of work in progress. We have a lot of idea of how to do it. Because it is a vertical slice, and because we're only seeing the creatures on certain places, we can script a lot of things. And because of the scope, we can fake an AI. So that's the first idea. But I think what we will do is a mix of a bit everything. Here is there will be a scripted animation. Here it will be a simple patrol with a predetermined path, and but her reaction will be totally calculated on real time. Mostly it will be the real problem here is mostly animation. So what we will do certainly is make our level design around it. and create some places where we are sure this animation works, and work our AI around it.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
I had a question about the gameplay loop. So you're talking about three lives, pretty much, that you can use to restore, to remove toxicity, if I remember correctly. So the question is, how can you save the player? Like when you're playing and you get a high level of toxicity and you don't have anything in your arm anymore, what can you do? Like you said, you can find stuff in the environment, but if you're stuck somewhere and you keep going around and keep getting toxicity, and then you don't have anything in your arm and the toxicity keeps rising up, so basically you're screwed and you have to like start over the chapter or spawn endlessly stuff in the environments, which is not very, in an horror game, if you keep getting resupply every time, kind of lose something. So what's your solution for this problem? What can you do?
Well, originally we had some more, if I can say, elegant way of actually recovering the filters or the life, because it's actually a life bar, but disguised the toxicity bar. So yeah, we had originally like maybe more elegant things to do, but yeah, for the sake also of vertical slice, etc., it's gonna the only filters you can recover in the environment. But basically, the way we are gonna balance it is indeed gonna be difficult, because it's not gonna, like the way we are going to do it, I think, is to have the high increase, like with zero filter, really punishing, and the other states way more. And also the HoloLink, I think, will play a great part in that, like in how many I don't know if I have the little, okay. So like in how many toxicity dynamic is gonna be influenced by the HoloLink. So for example, like here, I said it's high, it's level up the array, but basically we can play on the factor the HoloLink is gonna play in that to have like the notion of danger really coming from using this help. And when you're not using it, well, you are not going to die in the few minutes which just are after the loss of filters. So yeah, I think it's gonna be like that, and I agree that it's gonna be a lot of work about the pace of the game. So yeah.
Yeah. You better avoid like having a soft lock where you can't do anything.
Of course. Yeah, about saves and etc. There's gonna be a work about the presence of filters around safe zones, etc. In the whole game, because yeah, it's the soft lock is a problem, but the mechanic, I think itself is worth the risk, if I can say so.
Yeah, you're cool. It's cool. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm questioning a little bit the level of, I was seeing the grade where you're placing your game, and I was seeing that it's terror more than suspense. And yes, and I see as, for example, that is much more narrative driven than mechanic driven, where your project is. And what I'm thinking is, what is the freedom we have when we are reacting in terror? And personally, I will run like a chicken without head, you know. So at what moment the game is over for me? At that moment, what can be my march of decision at that moment? I'm just questioning this in a terror situation, because for me, terror is a big earthquake, as for example. You run for your life, and you get if you are lucky, you don't get a brick on your head. But when you play a game, what is the degree of decision you can have? And at some moments, I would like to know how you manage this. Thank you.
Well, actually, in case of like it depends on the terror situation you are facing. Like for example, if you are sure that the creator is actually aware of you, you are kinda screwed. But you still have some elements to survive, and one of those first elements are well, the filters, because it attracts the creator. So when it is not really totally aware of you, like it has suspicion. It may be located something interesting, and it's you, but it does not know for now that it's you. Basically, you can use one of the filter and sacrifice it to escape the inevitable, because it was the creature was actually going in the corridor you were in. So that's one of the situation, and actually. We were seeking for the vertical slice at least of when the creature is totally aware of you, so it's 100% sure, then it's death. It's a little bit less subtle than other games, but because of the vertical slice time, we will sorry do that. Yeah, because running is. Like it's not maybe something. It's something actually in the vertical slice, but not really something we are going to play with the creature, because it will need a more powerful AI eventually. So yeah.
Colette, I think you have a question.
Yes, I'm not sure if I understood well. What I understood is the less toxicity filters you have, the more using your HoloLink will increase your toxicity. So when the situation is already bad, like you don't have any more filters, you can't use help neither, because your HoloLink will reach your toxicity level.
Yeah, the idea is to have like this feeling of loneliness and loneliness and very vulnerability, like actually encircling the player when in a bad situation. But you could think in the full game of adapting, for example, the AI to be less aggressive in this type of situation. It's an idea. Again, it's work in progress, and it's gonna maybe be in the full document of the game. But it's to have the game still with a good atmosphere, but not frustrating. It's the kind of balancing we could do. But yeah, indeed, when you are in a bad situation, the HoloLink is punitive or deactivated simply.
Okay, thanks.
Alizé,
thank you.
It's your turn.
Yeah, I had a question about the HoloLink. Something that's kind of I'm not sure about having the HoloLink being gameplay elements and narrative element, because it seems sometimes a bit blurry. Like it's supposed to help players, but it's not really helping. And at some points, if it's broken, it's just getting a little more scarier for players. So I would just recommend to be sure about what you're going to do about the element, because it could be very frustrating for players to depend on it, then recognize or being aware that it's not as useful and being very punished by it at some point in the game. So I would just say to be very careful with this kind of elements, because it can be both gameplay and narrative, but you need to be very careful with it.
Thank you for the feedback. Yeah, indeed, it's gonna be a real work to balance that. But actually, it's what you were talking about breaking the HoloLink. It's kind of, if I could say, typical twist in the horror genre, where you actually remove an help the players had from the beginning of the game to provoke fear, and before that, the HoloLink is really gonna be a help. It's just gonna be a help that needs a little input to give you the correct way. Like I said, like for example, you need to focus on clues to have the right corridors or the safer corridors. But yeah, indeed.
Yeah, but you also said that the danger level is not really not useful, but not very reliable. So that's why I was wondering how much of a help it is, if it's supposed to be an element of narrative at the end, like, okay, it's broken, you're very in a shitty situations, if it's not really helping as much as you, as a player, would think.
Yeah, well, it's indeed it's indeed, when it's breaking, it's indeed, yeah, a false friend. But before that, it's still usable. It's not unreliable. I just said, maybe you misunderstood, but that the percentage are unreliable. Like, actually, it's not a dice you throw and you are 40% of dying. It's just like the percentage will be to guide the player, but also to give a little incentive of, okay, here it's a dangerous place and you surely don't want to go here. It's a way to manipulate fear. It's why I say it's a narrative kind of mechanic.
Please, and maybe adding another stage, that if I understood correctly, that the HoloLink is always toxic is from the beginning of the game, if I understand correctly. But at what point of the game it changes and it starts to be, well, to deceive you, to be a false friend. What about the possibility of the HoloLink not being toxic until one point of the game, so you can rely on it and up to that point, and then it becomes toxic, so it changes, you lose that friend, and at the end it's also a false friend? Or maybe that's the idea and I didn't get it.
It was an idea we had, that the HoloLink at the beginning of the game wasn't that toxic, because we thought about it running on battery, but when the battery is low or empty, the HoloLink asks the player, do you want to go to the emergency mode? And after this point, it became toxic for the player.
Last comment, and then we're gonna finish.
Yeah, another question. The possible way to die is from the toxicity when it reaches the 100%, or when you get catched by the beast. Is there other way to die? Because as we should have fear, the beast can be hiding anywhere. We agree on that, but also from choosing which path and where is the trap, what is dangerous, what is not, and maybe also try to get more specific about the mission that we gotta do. And because, for example, how we can choose the path, we know that, we need to get to this room to fix up that thing or this one. Then there is no other way around. We just have to do it. And if the creature is inside the room, what we gonna do? We wait. I don't know if you see what I'm talking about. It's about the complexity between having all the environment being dangerous and also adding the beast being to that, and try to find the right balance between all that and the right amount of fear, as you don't want to be blocked and feel like, as the same as my colleague was saying there, like the death loop, as you already use your three filters and you're running away and then you die and you respawn with no filter, running away again and just spawning again to die and die. And so talking about the game as like survival game, it's very important to make sure that the player also time to release it to safe place and to make sure that he can understand properly the environment as what is the threat. Is the threat only the creature and the toxicity, or is there any other threats around and things like that?
For now, it's only the two you mentioned. Like it's toxicity, the creature, no others actors, if I could say so. So yeah, and about safe place, indeed, yeah, it's a big point in a lot of horror games, and obviously all games are not going to evade that. Of course, we are going to have safe place, and I agree that their placement is gonna be tricky, because the filters mechanic is kinda Damocles sword in top of your head. So yeah, that's I agree with you. And basically, in case you misunderstood, I'm not sure, but the warning inside the corridors are actually to prevent if the percentage you are going to find the creature, because the environment is not no, it's not dangerous. It's the creature.
Thank you. I think we're going to finish here for this question and answers. Congrats again to the team. And let's welcome and encourage the last team of the day, A Long Rift.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the first presentation of Along the Rift. First of all, I would like to introduce the team. So we have Julia and Paul as game designers, Simon and Thomas as programmers, Maximiliano, Dorian and Rebecca as game artists, Martin as sound designer and composer, Mina as UX and UI designer, and Clara as UX and UI artist. And now, it's time to dive into the rift with Maya, our main character.
Maya! Answer us, sweetheart!
Maya, are you alright?
No worries, I'm alright.
Maya and her parents are hiking in the mountains when suddenly she falls into a deep rift. She is now on her own, trying to find a way out with the distant help of her parents. And you embody this 10-year-old kid, and your journey begins. So, it's a narrative adventure game which lasts 3 to 4 hours on PC and consoles. And it's an immersive and introspective story about an adventure of a lifetime, one that will shake fears, imagination, and feelings, and portrays the coming of age of a young girl. And we want that game experience as accessible as possible to allow a wide audience to plunge into the family bonds complexity through the metaphor of the little girl falling into a rift.
So, for their summer vacation, Maya and her dad, Nathan and Aaron, had to go to France in the Alps. They went here to help Nathan's sister, who was going through a difficult time. Aaron is not very enthusiastic about being here, and is always complaining. This creates little discords between the couple, and Maya is getting tired of it. Along the rift takes place when the family is hiking, having a good time, until one more disagreement begins between Nathan and Aaron. And this is the moment Maya will fall in the rift. Now, I'm going to present you Maya and her dad to help you understand how they can all feel about this situation. So Maya was adopted at the age of 2 by Nathan and Aaron. She is very close to them. The thing is, like all couples, they sometimes argue. And when this happens, Maya tries to calm it down when it feels too intense, to protect all her family. The rift is a way for her to escape reality and rebalance things by focusing on herself rather than her parents. But Maya is still a kid, so she needs to help keep the connection with her dad, a connection essential to survive and to remember where she comes from.
So we looked for the voice acting of our characters, and for Maya we already found one that is great, so I will make you listen to a small sample.
Hi, I'm Chelsea. I'm 11 years old. My 2 favorite people are my dad and my horse Sparkle. I started feeling sick at a riding lesson. I got really dizzy and confused and started throwing up. It was pretty.
So yeah, of course, the sense is irrelevant because it's a sample from the actor side, but you get the idea for the timbre of the voice and the characterization we want.
Concerning Aaron and Nathan, Nathan is a writer with a very poetic outlook on life, while Aaron is a math teacher, very Cartesian, with a sarcastic humor. They both want the best for Maya, even if it means being a bit oppressive with her sometimes. And during their little discord, they tend to forget the fact that Maya is in the middle of it and how she can feel about that. During the rift, they will encounter periods when Maya will have to grow by cutting the link from time to time.
So again, we found great voice actors. So this is the one for Nathan.
I don't know how much time I have, so I'll have to make this short. Oh, Doctor, we have missed you. It seems like a lifetime since we last received your counsel, and so much has changed since then. Food.
And this is the one we thought about for Aaron.
This is a time machine. It's a rewind button back to your glory days. Back when you woke up motivated, went to sleep satisfied. Back.
So yeah, once again, it's samples, so the content is irrelevant, but you get the idea.
These 3 characters will experience an adventure that this game will explore. The entire game is divided in 3 acts. These acts showcase the evolution of Maya during an adventure. She starts as a very frightened young girl, but she will learn to manage her fears, becoming more and more independent and brave before joining her parents. As you can see here in yellow, the vertical slice that we are working on starts at the end of the game's introduction and ends at the middle of the first act. So during the vertical slice, we will follow Maya as she falls into the rift and the discovery of this underground world. It is divided in 9 very short chapters, each of them corresponding to an area on Maya's journey. Below the chapters, you can see a representation of Maya's mood during those adventures. When the line goes up, she is stressed, and when it goes down, she is calm. You can also see at the bottom when the dad will be present. We chose this part of the game for the slice to be able to introduce players to the game progressively and to showcase a wide range of situations. This is the world map of the vertical slice, as seen from above. We can see that the 9 chapters of this journey are all linked to the specific areas. Here is the same map, but seen from the side, that allow you to see the verticality of some of our areas.
So Maya is in a pre-adolescent transition. She becomes more and more aware of the real problems of life and the reality she faces. To give a metaphorical view of this transition, we choose to install a contrast from the outside of the rift, where the parents are, from the inside of the rift, which represents Maya's inner mind. From the moment Maya is in the rift, the atmosphere, spaces, and environment seems distorted and unrealistic. So to show that she's amplifying reality, but the relationship between the parents as well.
The environments are crafted to illustrate Maya's perception of reality in her inner mind. The bottoms of the rift and the caves appear huge and their walls are dressed with threatening shapes by moment. On the opposite, they can feel comforting as her mind shifts towards different feelings. To furthermore illustrate Maya's mind evolution, the colors and ambiances shifts as well and fits her mood. This way, through them, we are able to go from pure fear to comfort, giving the player a better understanding of what Maya is going through. When Maya is stressed, the pacing of her walk changes and her vision gets altered. The music as the sound become more and more menacing, and she can also see the silhouettes. The silhouette is the recurring fictional character created by Maya. Here are some inspirations of what it could look like. It embodies her fears and especially her fear of the dark. It appears only in some of the most creepy areas. Our main references being games such as Firewatch or Life is Strange, we decided to go for a semi-realistic art direction. It means the visuals will focus on the use of volumetric fog and strong emphasis on lightning and a balance between sharp and smooth shadows. Also, every props will have some kind of color grunge and a brush stroke effect onto them, as well as a subtle color shift onto their surfaces to add diversity and richness to their overall appearance.
And so we created a brushstroke effect, a brushstroke filter that will give a little bit of grunge as well as a standalone or used in Painter. We can add it to any kind of material, and the values can be easily manipulated. It will help us unify all the output and make things a little bit easier. When it comes to the materials, we also created several ones, also procedural, for different biomes such as sand, rock, snow, mud, ice, and a few others. Now, when it comes to the level art, we choose to start with the first one, which is the glade, to the chapter of the glade. Maya will have a more relaxed mood in this chapter, so we have to show this feeling of safety. So it has a lot of vegetation in it, and the green color will help as well. It should inspire the feeling of wonder, with both visual and sound being very calming and safe.
So, all of this is great, but while we are talking, Maya is still stuck in the rift. She took her time to discover it, and this is beautiful. Also a bit worrying. Anyway, I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to spend her life here. So, how can we help her, and how you, the player, can help her? Let's talk about the gameplay now.
So, how do we play along the rifts? You will embody Maya with a first-person view. Controls are thought to be very minimalistic and easy to learn. When playing with a gamepad, you will only need the 2 joysticks to play the entire game. The left stick is mainly used for movements, and the right stick for the camera. When playing with a keyboard and mouse, the typical WASD or arrow keys will be used for the movements, and the mouse for controlling the camera. Navigating through the rifts is mainly done by walking, which will be paced depending on the mental state of Maya. For example, in stressful situations, she will move faster and be out of breath, and sometimes see the silhouette.
So at some places in the rift, Maya will encounter different situations like obstacles or gaps. And in those cases, for example, when she will jump automatically when reaching the edge of a hole. And also, some surfaces can be climbed, and like for the jump, you just have to reach these surfaces to start climbing. And then, for example, the climbing, you can use the left stick or the keyboard to move along the wall. And you can still use the other stick to look around with the camera while climbing, but it will automatically refocus on the wall if you're trying to look too far behind you.
But one of the most important things is to keep a link with the parents and talk to them. And dialogues along the rift are one of the most important features of the game. They define the character, and especially the relationships, bringing out the complexity of family links. And they are also here to maintain the overall link between Maya and her dads, and our goal is to make them as fluid and organic as possible. They are also here to represent Maya's self-representation, because it's changing all along the rift and all along our journey, and you will see the evolution of our state of mind through her answers. And finally, they will help to understand the emotion of Maya at the moment and how she will grow up to become more and more independent. But how dialogues actually work? So you can see here, once the crosshair is close enough to the parents, the camera is soft-locked to focus on the dialogue, and the crosshair becomes a cursor. And when it stays long enough on an answer, it is selected, and the others disappear so that Maya can say the according line. So the soft-lock can be easily turned off by looking far enough away from the screen. And you can easily start a conversation, let the dialogue talk to you, look away, and then look up in time to answer to them.
So, like we said, dialogues are a big part of our game, and we want to ensure a good readability of them, as well as a good comprehension of Maya's emotion. To do so, we choose to enhance the typography size with the subtitles we display and the speaker's name for the people to keep track. We also made the choice to show Maya's emotion through three aspects: the way the text will be whitened, the bubbles colors, and different icons. It also helps to ensure the player will comprehend Maya's emotion.
The rift is full of dangerous-looking caves, but some areas are very quiet and reassuring. The goal of these zones is to allow you, the player, to rest for a while. You will be able to entertain yourself with little stories, taking the form of mini-games. They allow Maya to control her fears and will allow you to experience a new narrative-oriented gameplay, very different from the rest of the game. In the full game, a total dozen of mini-games will be implemented, tackling different subjects. Here is an example of one of our mini-games, as seen in the engine. It will take place in a whirlpool in the game. So you can see that we control a small chalk character that Maya drew with a piece of chalk she found on the ground, and you can move and jump on walls using only the left stick. You choose how the story unfolds by collecting items. So those are placeholders. You can only see like cowboy hats for the moment, but obviously there won't be like any cowboy hats in the final game. And you can choose the character, the location, and the opponent to defeat by selecting which item to tackle. No matter what you choose, the story in this will always revolve around the same idea: Maya learning to deal with her fear of the dark. When this game is finished, the image will stay on the cave wall as a drawing, and you can then be seen at any time.
Okay, let's talk about marketing now. Our unique selling points are firstly our theme, so the coming of age through the eyes of Maya, with her fear, her imaginations and feeling during this key period. And secondly, the way we approach it, that is to say, we propose the player to experience the complexity of family relationships through the metaphor of this little girl falling into a rift. And we have two target audiences for our game. So first, our core players, which are narrative game lovers, who like to feel immersed in a story and to imagine another reality. And we have also a wider audience with casual players who love games with easy controls, and possibly parents who are not necessarily players, but who are curious and make effort to discover the medium of video game as a new way of telling story. And by analyzing the large market of narrative games, the way they are sold and also the feedback from players, we identified two axes that seemed relevant to position our game. So firstly, the pace of the game, and secondly, its replayability. And as the choices will not have big impact on the story, we consider its replayability low. And concerning its pace, we want a medium and very varied rhythm with stressful and more peaceful phases for the player. And about sales and distribution, we are thinking of going from the premium model and selling the game for around 15 euros. And we found this price by looking at competitors and also via a survey of our core player. And finally, we target publishers who enjoy and publish narrative games, such as Xbox Game Studio, Annapurna Interactive, Arte, or Plugin Digital. And this was the first presentation of Along the Rift. Thank you all for your attention.
I'm trying, so it works now. First questions or comments?
I have two comments that I didn't give yesterday because the first one is, I would say, I am not sure that mini games is very important for your game. Maybe it can cut a part of the quality of the narration and something like that. That's my first comment. And my second comment is that the fact that a story has several ends is not related mainly to replayability. It's related to the fact that in a game, any kind of game, the player has to feel a certain responsibility on the evolution of the narration. And in a certain way, I don't understand, but maybe because you are writing the story, how the player can feel any responsibility on the story of Maya.
So for the first question, it was about the mini games. We really valued those features because we think that it allowed the games to tackle different gameplay and to also propose a different approach to game narration. Because as you said, in the main part of the game, you don't have like much choices. You can choose like which aspect of Maya you want to embody, but those choices don't matter much in the game's adventure. But in those mini games, your choices have a lot of importance, and they can really define what the story is about. You know, so it's like a little playground that's with a very different philosophy. You know, for the narrative design. And for the multiple choices, I don't know if you want to answer that, but
I can add something just about the mini games. It was as well to change the pace of the game and to put a short period to feel that Maya is distracting herself, to just change her mind and to just dream a bit during the rift, and she is appropriate the rift to herself to show that it's the intention. Yeah.
A great idea, but take care, it can be like Dr. Layton puzzle, which has nothing to do with the story. So you have to be very careful with that.
And for the mini games, I don't know if it's obvious, but not all mini games have the same gameplay. Like the track platformer that I presented you is the first minigame of our vertical slice, for instance, but it's the only one with this particular gameplay. We also started to create another minigame for the vertical slice, which is about drawing around a picture of Maya's parents, you know, so it's a very different gameplay. And so, it's not always a platformer, you know.
And minigames are always to show that Maya creates herself little stories, like.
And for the second question, which is from my point of view the main thing, how do you give the player the feeling that he's in a certain sense responsible or in empathy, I don't know, but he is the one in charge of this story.
It's more about empathy that responsibility, I think, because we embody Maya. So we don't have the responsibility of her, but we help her to grow by embodying her, I think. Yeah.
Other questions or comments? Yeah.
Hi, Jaime from Madrid, again, sorry. Well, first of all, congratulations for your presentation. Also, congratulations for your 6th successful presentation, Clara. It's amazing. You nailed this one. But as a question, also, I wanted to ask you if you have considered the mobile platform also, just because of the easy gameplay and controls that you have proposed, maybe it could be also an option. And I think that I didn't see the mobile platform. Maybe I was confused, but I think that you didn't mention that one. And I wanted to ask you if you have considered that option. Also, just to confirm, there are different endings? Or no? Well,
Just one.
Okay. In that case, I wanted to just encourage you to research a lot. You are going to touch different topics, different minds, different options and different realities that requires a lot of investigation and a lot of care. So when you try to write down the dialogues, take extreme care about what you are trying to imply and what you are actually saying. So yes, I just encourage you to please investigate a lot. Also try to get even testimonies from people that have lived similar situations that could help a lot. So just again, congratulations for your work.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for that.
Colette, you have a question?
Yes, thanks. Hello, and thanks for the presentation. It was really good. It was nice to hear so many sound design. And I was wondering, you talked about the silhouette, like Maya was, he's fearing it. And I was wondering what will be its impact, whether on the dialogues or on the gameplay.
The silhouette, so the silhouette just represents her fears of the dark and her fears of divorce and real life, and it appears as a shadows or reflection in the environment. But there isn't any risk of death or something really dangerous about that. It causes changing about the music and all the ambience. So it's a part of the rift in the environment of the rift, and not something really dangerous because Maya gonna apprivoiser.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I would just add that it's not that the silhouette is affecting the gameplay and the dialogues. It's more that the dialogues and the gameplay is affecting the silhouette, you know, because she can just disappear and appear more threatening or bigger, you know, depending on the situation. So it's more that way I want, I think, if that makes any sense.
Okay. And do you plan to have other character like that comes from his imagination?
Yeah, like we wanted to have only like one fearful figure, you know, just to concentrate all of Maya's fear in just one character, but that can appear in different shapes depending on the intensity of the fear, you know, and depending on where it appears in the rift. Like maybe the scale of the silhouette can changes depending on the room she appears. So yeah, that was the idea.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, Louis from Asobo. First, very cool presentation. Also, very nice concept art. I don't know who made the concept art. Ah, okay. No, they are cool. They are really cool. Also, you change the music, the mood when you have to. It made the presentation more dynamic, and that's very cool for us. But yeah, we already asked my question. I think there is a very interesting potential on the Maya's imagination. So yeah, my question was, how deeper, how far do you want to go into this, into the Maya's imagination? Because I'm sure there are a lot of things to do into this kind of different dimension.
Yes, we wanted from the beginning to have this part of the game, like we don't actually see the reality, but like the reality as seen from Maya's point of view. And so I think there is the silhouette, of course. There are also the mini games, and there is the actual decor of the game, because depending on where you are, like for instance, we showed you one cave that we made, and it was quite realistic. But like other places in the Rift won't look realistic at all, you know? Like you will know that those places cannot exist. Like the green one or the red one, you know? Like with the color and the scale of elements, it will just like, it will be obvious that it's what Maya is imagining and not like the actual reality.
There's a few things when it comes to the art that can play a really large role when it comes to this stuff. And so, for example, color is quite an important one, as well as the biomes. So, as we said, there's rock biome, which is quite the standard one for caves. There's also the ice one and the green one, which is moss and rocks. And these are going to be really important factors when it comes to the mood of Maya. For example, ice being cold and serious and worrying a little bit. And as we said, the moss one will be quite relaxing and safe. And so colors and mood and fog and all these kind of factors will be really helpful when it comes to this.
Thank you. Ouais. Cécile, you wanted to ask a question as well.
Yeah, I have both a small remark and a question. So my remark is on the mini games. I tend to agree with Stefan Netkin that it can be a bit artificial. It made me think of one narrative game made that pretty brilliantly behind the frame, because it's not like very different mini games. Well, they are different, but they still use the painting, so there is a recurring pattern. And I think that made it more interesting than most uses of mini games. So that was my remark. Also, on a production point of view, it's terrible because I hear myself in echo. On the production side, it's a lot of work to reinvent another game mechanic for each and every mini game. It's just very costly. And so my question was about, so on some diagram, we could see her, sometimes her parents were out of reach, and sometimes for a very long time. And so I was wondering, during those pretty long time, who's she going to talk to? Is it like the opportunity for her to go into dreamland, or?
Could you repeat your question, please? Because we don't heard really a good ear.
Okay. So sometimes you showed that her parents were out of reach. And so I imagine she won't be able to talk with them during those periods of time. And so how do you intend to fill these gaps? And what use are you going to make of them?
Yes, so during the vertical slice, at some point in like the middle of it, the parents won't be able to reach Maya anymore, as you can see on the line at the bottom of the screen right now. And so in these moments, sometimes Maya will just hear them without seeing their faces, and sometimes she will just like hear the wind and think that it is a parent talking to her, but it won't be. And so like the game will be much more quiet in these moments, but we still have a feature that is the thought bubble, so we'll be able to see what Maya is thinking about by seeing a thought like directly displayed in the environment, like just one pieces of words, you know, just telling like her current emotion. So it won't be like entirely silent, you know. And at the very end of our slice, we want the parent to appear once again and to like have a little cliffhanger moment where Maya discovers that her journey is not over yet and like there is a full game ahead of her.
Hello, Pierre Alban, game designer at Science6 Games. My question was, the dialogue choices seems to help the player build the character mood, but does it trigger any other feedback? For instance, does it help also, does it trigger, for instance, feedback from the parent that help understand their character as well? And you seem to have designed them, so do the player get to know the universe better in different way if you replace the game and choose other things, or is that just you choose a dialogue option and everything goes on?
So during dialogue, you choose like in which way Maya will answer her parents, but like often it won't matter much in the continuation of the discussion, you know. And so yeah, if I understand the question well, yes, the story is like will be written in advance, and you can just go through it. But by deciding like which aspect of Maya you choose to embody, you know, depending on the situation, what you think is the best in the situation, you know. Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes there's gonna be little nuance according to the answer you choose. Like parents may say a sentence or another according what you choose, but it's little. Yeah, it may appear from time to time, not in every dialogue interface.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
And you can also choose not to answer to the parents at any time, and also to cut your parents. Like they are saying something, and you just answer ahead of time, and then you just stop talking and listen to what you have to say. So you have other options, you know, for the dialogues, not only the bubble that you can see here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but I'm having just it's not a problem with all the projections of your character are fantastic. The representation of herself, I have a problem. For the moment, I think is not yet there, but it will come. What I was thinking also is, while following your project, is that it's kind of a metaphor of birth level 2, higher, you know, a conscious rebirth where this character is deciding to survive and choosing also to grow, which is a beautiful journey. Now, representing the parents talking to her is fantastic if you choose actors and good dialogues. But what I think maybe is that evoking the character more than showing it, because it's not ready, and maybe there is a reason which she can be encounter light, she can be evoked. She can, when you show how she's seeing herself when she's afraid, or it can be her projection, because it's physical things like a ray of light, something is provoking this projection, and she's seeing herself sometimes in a very frightening way, sometimes she's seeing herself in it's okay way, you know, and you can show these kind of characters that Miyazaki and all is how she's seeing herself, so you feel the mood without representing her. Maybe at the end, well, there is not an end, but maybe we can have the gift of having her face for the first time, because there is a ray of light coming on her, and she's, you know, is coming out, but you don't know. I think the evoking side of herself will be much more stronger than any representation, because until now, all what is surrounding her is fantastic, and she is a growing process. It's a surviving, growing process, and the parents talking, I was imagining how a baby can imagine the birth, but it's too little, and it happened first. What if this happens a second time when you are 6 or 7? How it could be? And I think it's very interesting because there is a decision to grow and to go out and to be it by their own. Imagine that work from the inside. I think it's a very beautiful metaphor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. About that, you're right. There is a little surprise during the vertical slice because for the mini game number 2, she gonna draw around a photo she took before during the walk with her parents. So she drew around it, and so it's the first time you have an idea of the real faces of her and the parents. So from the beginning to this scene, you have not idea of what the parents can look like or what Maya looks like. So yeah, this is the moment she realized that she had parents and she had to keep this link with them, and she realized that she can be just herself without them. So by showing this picture, we want to share that idea. Yeah.
My name is Alejandro. I'm coming from University of Uruguay. So congratulations, first of all. I think the backgrounds you made are awesome. It has a nice background, nice contrast, nice composition. But in her line, I was wondering how are you going to manage the camera with the feeling of her, of the feeling of Maya in the cinematic point of view. Because I see it, everything is wide open. Even though the background, it looks, for me, from here, looks like 2D and might not be. But you have the elements like snow, you have a really 3D, beautiful, and how are you going to integrate it? But most important is how are we going to feel Maya inside of the game? And something obvious, the bubbles, maybe I'm saying something obvious, but careful with the colors and the design for the layout. Thanks.
Thanks for the question. So yes, we really want the player to feel like they are embodying Maya. So at any time they can see her hands and her feet when they look down, you know. And so you can also see her shadow. And we have a feature that we call the soft lock, which allow us to lock the camera on specific points that we absolutely want the player to see. Like for instance, if rocks are falling nearby, we will just lock the camera on this, while still allowing the player to slightly move the camera around this, not to, so that the player never leave the control of the camera, you know. And so, yes, we give a lot of freedom regarding the camera, but at some given time, we just choose to like show specific things for our players. It will depend on the actual cave she's in. Like as you've seen on the map, maybe there are like very tiny caves and bigger ones. So yeah, we try to have a big mix of those. And yeah, here are some of an old gray box that we made for the vertical slice, so you can see like the beginning and the like very very small areas and like much bigger area also. So yeah, we try to have a mix of many different shapes and sizes.
And just want to add something about embodying Maya. When she's stressed out or she's anxious, we want maybe to put head bobbing or like she's falling and you can feel it by the camera movements, you know. And as well, maybe she can have the blurry eyes when she's maybe crying or something like that. It's for the whole game. We don't know if we have time to put that in the vertical slide actually, but it can be cool to have a camera effect for that.
Hello. So first of all, as a climber and a father in love with my daughter, I can't wait to play your game. It really talks to me, so nice work. I have a question though for the artist. So I understood that you target some kind of stylized artistic direction. That's really cool. Your material looks awesome. Though your adventure, your game, is set entirely in a rock structure in the Alps, and it means, and from what I saw of your block out of the vertical slice, you have a huge level going into many layers of the mountain. Did you plan to have somewhat more geologically, how you say that in English? Like basically your rock structure, from what I saw in your first 3D renders, they feel like very stylized and not obliged to any geological science. Did you plan on having like trying to be more realistic in a way? Doesn't mean like having a realistic render, but having a geological structure that makes sense. I think that will be pretty important for a game that's set in a mountain. And I think it will add a lot and give you opportunities to convey different message, because like if a rock is jagged, maybe it's dangerous, and maybe it will, like Maya won't feel comfortable and such. So try to think about that. I think it would be a really good opportunity for you guys.
Thank you for your feedback. We basically are still on the very first steps throughout the level art. We will definitely go into a more realistic, because we want to achieve a semi-realistic look. It will still be a little bit stylized with a filter and whatnot, but we do want it to feel real as well. And so we will dive more into the level art, and we will make it as believable as possible, and we will try to achieve this kind of feeling as well.
I have an idea who came from different comments on your answer, and maybe we should discuss about it if you feel it's a good idea. Don't you think that according to the answer of Maya, the way the father discussed should change? Which means that you have the story of Maya with not really changing, but the mood of Maya is changing. But the story of the parent, I don't know if you know a rather old experiment in narration called Facade. Facade is built on very complex mechanism to change things, but even if you give this impression that you have two stories, one on the up and one on the down, and the two stories interfere in a certain way, you will be, I would say, in the feeling less linear.
Yeah, thanks. We didn't want to go too far in the branching stuff, because we unfortunately don't have time to do that. But the thing is, the game is made to be played like once, to have an experience of a family once, just one time, you know. So there will be little nuances in the answer the dads make, but it's not changing all the story. It's just little branch, but yes, maybe, yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, we're still writing the story, the dialogues. So we are deciding of all of that now. Yeah.
And it's not only a matter of time, but also we have a limited budget, and we want to hire like 3 different voice actors. So that's why we are trying to limit the number of lines in the game.
Hi, Kali from Bunkalon Studio. I have a simple question. Do you think about VR for your project?
No.
Okay. Because that can be a good way to promote your work, because I think the game could be played on VR, and some people will enjoy it?
It's really based on movement and really like walking at different spaces in the Rift. So, and like movement in VR games is like the most difficult thing to tackle, and it's like the thing to avoid. And since our game is mainly focused on that, I don't think it's it would work that well. But
maybe later.
Maybe later.
Just a quick one. Why first person? Is that just a design choice, or it's like a time constraint because you don't want to do all the animation and everything? Because I think third person would fit like probably better for a little girl.
Yeah, definitely a design choice and an art choice that we made like the very first day, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because we really wanted the player to embody Maya, you know. And yeah, it just felt like the right thing to do. Like being able to see your body when you look down was very appealing for us, you know. So yeah, that's why we picked that view. But yes, we discussed it like the very first day, and the very first day we decided that we were going to a first-person view.
Okay, thank you.
And also, since Maya is very little, she's less than 10 years old, the camera will be very close to the ground, and having a first-person view will be very like much more interesting, you know, for this aspect of the character, to be able to see the world from a smaller perspective.
I think this was the last question. Thanks again for all your questions, and congrats again the last team. I would like the whole cohort to come down, so to have maybe last words from the Godfather and from others, and maybe let's us congrats them for the great work they've done.
Godfather has to give a last word. Terrible. Pardon. C'est bon? So I didn't know that I had to give some last word. So I have chosen 2 words: good luck, and thank you for the presentation, and meet you in January.
So we will congratulate all of them once again. You did a great job, so thanks for all the presentation. I want to thank, while the last ones are coming down, I want to thank also the technical team who did really their best to have the good conditions for everybody, and it's not always easy with the settlement we have here. So please help me to say something. Thank you also to all the staff here, administration and pedagogical team, etc. Without them, you wouldn't be there as well. So thanks to all of them. Thanks to the jury online here. We were really honored to have you and very pleased to have you here today. So thanks. It's nice to have people coming back, because after these 2 years, and we hope it's gonna be the same for the next meetings. So thank you for being there, so many, and thank you for the discussions. And let's finish with congratulate you guys. You did really great work.
And also, just wanted to say really thank you to you, Catherine, also.
Thank you very much. So this is the end of the day. Thank you for following us as well on YouTube. And see you in January. Wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Christmas holidays. So yeah, get some rest now. Thank you very much.